The throne hall of the Zorith Empire was built to make visitors feel small. The walls stretched high into the air like mountains of polished black stone. Silver banners stitched with the sigil of the Serpent Star hung down in perfect rows. Alien light orbs floated overhead, casting a pale glow across the floor made of crystal plates that reflected every step. Rows of armored guards, taller and stronger than most other species, lined the chamber. They stood like statues, their weapons gleaming, their eyes sharp. At the far end of the hall, upon a throne carved from a single block of star metal, sat Queen Serathis. Her crown curved upward like wings of fire, and her robes shimmered with the colors of distant suns. She ruled the Zorith Empire, one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Her voice could command fleets, her gaze could silence generals. Many feared her, but few understood her. That day she waited for visitors she had never seen before. Humans. The galaxy knew little about them. They were newcomers, only recently discovered by the great powers. Some said humans were fragile. Others said they were clever but reckless. To Serathis, they were untested. If Earth wanted peace with her empire, they would have to prove themselves. The doors of the throne hall opened. A wave of sound echoed through the chamber as the heavy gates swung aside. A group of humans entered, their steps steady though their faces betrayed nerves. At the front walked their ambassador, dressed in a dark suit trimmed with silver threads to mark respect. Behind him walked soldiers chosen as guards for the meeting. Serathis leaned forward slightly. She studied them the way a hawk studied prey. She wanted to see if they would tremble in her presence. Her eyes fell upon one guard. For a single heartbeat, the queen's mind froze. The human was tall, his shoulders square beneath his armor. His eyes were steady, sharp, but not cruel. His face was a reflection she never thought she would see again. It was the face of her former husband. The memory struck like a blade. Long ago, before betrayal and war, she had stood beside a man who promised loyalty. He had been charming, cunning, and powerful. But he had turned against her. His betrayal nearly destroyed her empire. She had ordered his death, but his shadow had never left her heart. She had buried it deep, locked it away beneath layers of ice. And now, across the hall, a human carried the same face. The queen did not move. Her court, her generals, her advisors, all waited for her signal. They expected her usual cold speech of authority. But she sat still, her golden eyes fixed on the guard. The silence grew heavy. The human, unaware of her gaze, kept his position. His hand rested near the weapon at his side, his stance alert, his attention fixed on his duty. He did not flinch. Serathis' closest advisor, Lord Calith, leaned closer. "My queen," he whispered, "the humans await your words." Serathis forced her thoughts into order. She rose slowly, her robes flowing around her like waves of night. Her voice, calm and sharp, echoed through the chamber. "Welcome, people of Earth," she said. "You stand before the throne of the Zorith Empire. Speak your purpose." The human ambassador bowed deeply. His voice shook slightly but carried respect. "Great Queen Serathis, we come in peace. We seek friendship, trade, and understanding. Humanity wishes to join the stars not as conquerors but as partners." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some of the alien nobles scoffed. To them, humans were too weak, too new, too bold in their hope. But Serathis did not hear their whispers. Her gaze slid back to the guard. She studied him with silent intensity. The guard's name, though she did not yet know it, was Captain Elias Ward. He had been chosen for this mission because of his discipline, his steady courage. To him, this was another duty, another shield to hold for those who trusted him. He had no idea that a queen from another world saw in him the shadow of her lost past. Serathis' hand tightened on the arm of her throne. Why did fate play such tricks? Why would the universe place a mirror of her greatest wound in front of her now? Her generals shifted uneasily. One of them, a scarred warlord named Vanar, growled low. "My queen, these humans are nothing but children in the void. Do not waste your time on them." Serathis' eyes narrowed. Her voice turned sharp. "Silence, Vanar. You will not speak until commanded." The warlord lowered his head, but his glare burned toward the humans. The ambassador finished his words, and the hall grew silent again. Serathis stood. She walked down the steps of her throne, each step echoing like thunder. The humans stiffened. The alien guards raised their spears in ritual salute. Serathis stopped a few paces from the human delegation. Her golden eyes swept over them once more before locking on Elias. For a heartbeat too long, she stared. Elias felt the weight of her gaze but did not move. He only bowed slightly, showing respect. His expression remained calm, though his mind raced. He knew alien rulers often tested humans with silent pressure. He thought this was simply part of the ritual, but to Sarathis it was a storm. The lines of his jaw, the set of his brow, even the way he stood, all reminded her of the man who had betrayed her empire. And yet there was something different. This human's eyes carried a steadiness, not arrogance. There was no sly smile, no hidden ambition. It unsettled her more than if he had been her ex-husband reborn. Finally, Sarathis spoke. Her words cut through the chamber like cold steel. Earth speaks of friendship. Friendship is not given, it is earned. Your species will prove whether it is worthy of standing beside empires that have ruled the stars for ages. The ambassador bowed again. We understand, Your Majesty. We are ready to prove ourselves. Sarathis turned, her robe sweeping across the floor. She walked back toward her throne, her face a mask of control. But inside, her mind was a storm of memory and confusion. For the first time in decades, Queen Sarathis had felt something she thought she had buried forever. Not weakness, not fear, but hesitation. And hesitation in the throne of the Zorith Empire was dangerous. The meeting in the throne hall ended with formal words, but Queen Sarathis's thoughts were far from calm. She dismissed the human delegation with cold courtesy, her golden eyes hiding the storm inside. As the doors closed behind them, her generals and advisors gathered around her throne. Some praised her strength. Others demanded harsher words against humans. Yet Sarathis spoke little. She sat in silence, her mind locked on the image of the human guard who mirrored her ex-husband's face. The memories returned like shadows she could not control. She remembered the betrayal, the rebellion, the war. She remembered the nights when she had sworn never again to trust anyone who reminded her of him. But now fate had placed a human before her who carried the same features, yet not the same spirit. Her advisor, Lord Calith, broke the silence. My queen, forgive my boldness, but I noticed your pause earlier. Was there something unusual about the humans? Sarathis's gaze sharpened. You noticed too much, Calith. The advisor bowed quickly. I only serve your interests, Majesty. If there is a detail to be studied, I will uncover it. After a long pause, Sarathis spoke in a low voice. The guard, the one on the right of their ambassador. Find out who he is, Calith bowed deeper. It will be done. Elias's side, meanwhile, Captain Elias Ward returned to his quarters aboard the human diplomatic ship. He removed his armor and sat quietly, polishing the metal plates with steady hands. For him, the day had been routine duty. Stand guard, remain alert, and protect the ambassador. Yet something about the Queen's gaze lingered in his thoughts. He had felt it sharp and heavy, as if she had looked directly into his soul. Other guards had whispered about how intimidating she was, how her golden eyes could burn holes through a man. But Elias was not easily shaken. He had been a soldier too long to flinch at stares, even from alien rulers. Still, something about her silence unsettled him. The ambassador entered the chamber, loosening his collar. Good work today, Captain. You didn't move a muscle in front of her. That's exactly what we needed. Elias gave a small nod. She watched us closely. More closely than expected. The ambassador sighed. That's politics. They want to see if we sweat. They want to know if we're weak. But Elias thought back to the way she had looked at him. It wasn't the gaze of a ruler testing a soldier. It had been something else, personal, almost painful. He kept the thought to himself. The Queen's investigation. That night, while the human ship rested in orbit, Sarathis summoned her intelligence officers. The great palace of the Zorith Empire contained hidden chambers where silent agents worked in shadows. In one such chamber, Calith presented the Queen with a glowing screen of data. This human guard, Calith said, is named Elias Ward, captain in their planetary defense forces. Born on Earth, raised in a city called Chicago. No record of noble blood. His service history marks him as disciplined, loyal, and unremarkable, except for his ability to stay calm under pressure. Sarathis studied the image on the screen, his face again so close to the one she once loved and hated. Does he know anything of me? She asked. Calith shook his head. No, Majesty. He is only a soldier. He has no ties to our empire. It is coincidence. Coincidence, Sarathis repeated softly. She did not believe in such things. Another thought grew within her. What if this resemblance was not mere chance? Could it be a design of fate or perhaps a secret experiment? Some empires had been known to tamper with genetics, to create spies that resembled old figures. Suspicion, like a blade, cut through her reason. "Keep watching him," Sarathis ordered. "Every word, every movement. If there is even a shadow of deception, I will know." Whispering in the court the next day, whispers spread among the nobles. They had noticed the queen's long stare at the human guard. In the empire's politics, nothing went unseen. "Why does the queen look at him so?" one noble whispered to another. "Perhaps she sees a weakness. Or perhaps she sees a reflection of the past." The whispers grew like sparks near dry wood. Some of the nobles who disliked Sarathis's rule saw an opportunity. If the queen could be distracted by a single human soldier, they could call her judgment into question. Warlord Vanar, still bitter from being silenced, growled to his allies. "She plays with weakness. If she falls for the tricks of humans, she will lose the respect of her armies." The seeds of rebellion stirred, even if only faintly. A quiet test later, Sarathis arranged another meeting with the humans. This time it was not in the grand throne hall but in a smaller chamber designed for private talks. The room was circular, with walls of living crystal that pulsed softly like veins of light. The ambassador spoke of trade routes and cultural exchanges, but Sarathis's attention remained on Elias. She tested him quietly, though he did not know it. At one point she dropped a small, delicate object from the table, a ceremonial orb that represented her authority. It rolled across the floor toward the humans. Before the ambassador could move, Elias stepped forward, picked it up gently and held it out with both hands. His movements were careful, respectful, and precise. He bowed slightly as he returned it. Sarathis accepted the orb, her face calm, though inside her heart gave a strange stir. Her ex-husband would never have bowed like that. He would have smirked, made a show, turned the moment into his own power. But this human guard, he showed humility. When the meeting ended, Sarathis dismissed the delegation. But as Elias turned to leave, she spoke suddenly. "Captain Ward." He froze, surprised to hear his name in her voice. Slowly he turned back and bowed again. "Your Majesty." Her golden eyes held him. The chamber grew quiet as her advisors waited, wondering what she would say. But Sarathis only studied him, searching his face for the truth of who he was. At last she said, "You carry yourself with honor. Do not lose it." Elias nodded once, his expression calm. "I won't, Majesty." Then he left. The queen's turmoil that night, Sarathis walked alone in the gardens of her palace. The stars glowed overhead, reflected in the pools of water that lined the pathways. She should have been planning strategies, considering alliances, or preparing her fleets. Instead, her thoughts kept circling back to the human guard. Why did the universe send him here? Why did his face reopen wounds she thought long healed? But worse than the memories was the doubt. Was she seeing him only through the shadow of her past? Or was there truly something unusual about this human? For the first time in years, Queen Sarathis felt uncertain, and in her empire, uncertainty could be as dangerous as open war. The palace of the Zorith Empire was always filled with whispers. Its marble corridors and crystal walls carried secrets as easily as echoes. Servants whispered of trade deals, guards whispered of rival generals, and nobles whispered of the queen herself. But now, one whisper was louder than the rest, the queen's strange interest in a human guard. Queen Sarathis felt the weight of those whispers every time she entered her throne hall. Nobles bowed as always, but their eyes lingered too long. Generals saluted, but their expressions carried questions they dared not speak aloud. She ignored them, or at least she pretended to. Inside, her thoughts remained fixed on Captain Elias Ward. He had become a puzzle in her mind. A soldier who looked like her ex-husband, yet acted nothing like him. A human, considered weak by most empires, yet stronger in discipline than many of her own guards. It unsettled her. The council meeting, on the third day of the human delegation's stay, Sarathis called for a full council meeting. Representatives from the most powerful noble houses filled the chamber. Long tables stretched in a circle, each seat occupied by generals, ministers, and alien lords whose voices carried weight in the empire. The humans were invited as observers, though some nobles objected. Sarathis silenced those objections with one command. Captain Elias Ward stood once more behind the ambassador, silent and watchful. His armor reflected the glow of the chamber's star lamps, and his steady eyes scanned the hall. He was used to being invisible, but now he felt the sharp weight of alien stares. The meeting began with heated arguments. Warlord Vaynor slammed his clawed hand on the table. The humans are not allies, they are liabilities. They have no fleets, no colonies worth protecting, no history of ruling the stars. Why should the Empire waste its time on them? Another noble added, they will only slow us down. Their weakness will draw enemies. The human ambassador stood, his voice polite but firm. Humanity does not come here to weaken your empire. We come to offer friendship. Our technology grows each year. Our people are eager to learn, and we bring creativity that others have overlooked. Give us time, and you will see that Earth is not weak. The chamber erupted into laughter from some nobles, scowls from others. Sarathis raised her hand, and silence fell at once. Earth will be judged by actions, she declared, not words. Her golden eyes flicked briefly toward Elias. The attack as the meeting stretched on. Servants moved quietly between the tables, carrying trays of glowing drinks. Some of them bowed deeply, their faces hidden beneath their hoods. None paid them much attention, but Elias noticed. His soldier's instinct pricked. One of the servants walked too stiffly. Another avoided looking at the guards. Elias's hand slid closer to the weapon at his belt. Then it happened. The servant nearest the queen suddenly drew a hidden blade that shimmered with toxic light. With a cry, he lunged at Sarathis. The hall erupted in chaos. Nobles shouted, guards raised weapons, and the assassin's strike cut through the air, but the blade never reached the queen. Elias moved first. Faster than many expected a human could. He crossed the distance, his arm catching the assassin's wrist mid-strike. The poisoned blade hissed inches from Sarathis's throat. Elias twisted, forcing the attacker's arm away, then slammed him to the ground with a soldier's practiced force. The guards of the queen rushed forward. Spears aimed, but Elias already had the assassin pinned. Gasps filled the hall. The nobles stared, some in shock, some in anger that a human had touched the queen, even to save her. Sarathis rose slowly, her face calm but her heart racing. Her golden eyes fixed on Elias. He had moved without hesitation, without thought for his own safety. She spoke coldly, though her voice carried a strange weight. Remove the traitor. The guards dragged the struggling assassin away. His hood slipped, revealing the mark of a rebel faction long thought destroyed. Whispers filled the chamber. Rebels had returned, and they had struck at the queen herself. After the attack, the council meeting ended in turmoil. Nobles shouted for stronger defenses, generals demanded war against the rebels, and rumors spread like fire. But Sarathis dismissed them all. She ordered the chamber sealed and called for quiet. When only a few trusted guards remained, she turned to Elias. Captain Ward, she said, her voice even. Step forward. Elias obeyed, standing tall before her throne. His armor bore a faint scratch from the struggle, but his face was calm. You acted without hesitation, she said. Why? Elias met her gaze. Because it was my duty. The ambassador was safe. You were not. My training is simple, protect those in danger. Her golden eyes narrowed slightly. Even if that danger was meant for me, not for you? Yes, Elias answered without pause. It does not matter who. Danger is danger. The silence stretched. Nobles who remained shifted uneasily, waiting for the queen's reaction. At last, Sarathis spoke. You are either the most foolish human I have ever seen, or the most loyal. Elias allowed a faint, respectful smile. Perhaps both, Majesty. For the first time in years, a small, fleeting spark of amusement touched the queen's lips. She hid it quickly, but those closest to her noticed. The seeds of favor news of the assassination attempt spread across the empire within hours, but more than the attempt itself, the story that traveled was about the human guard who saved the queen. Some praised his courage. Others mocked the idea that a human could be a hero. But all agreed on one thing. The queen had allowed him to stand in her presence unharmed afterward. That alone was a sign of strange favor. Warlord Vaynor scowled when he heard it. The queen bends too easily. This human distracts her. If she grows weak, the nobles will turn against her. His allies nodded, whispers of rebellion stirring louder. Private conversation. That evening, Sarathis summoned Elias privately. The chamber was smaller than the throne hall, lit by soft crystal lamps. No other humans were allowed inside. Only 2 Zorith guards stood at the doors, silent and unmoving. Sarathis studied Elias carefully. You risked your life for me today. Do you understand what that means in this court? Elias shrugged slightly. That I made enemies? The Queen gave a small, sharp laugh. Yes, you will not be admired for saving me. Many will hate you for touching me at all. I didn't think about that, Elias said simply. No, Sarathis said. You did not. That is what makes you different. Her eyes softened just a fraction, though her tone remained cool. My people value power above all. They scheme, they betray, they strike when weakness shows. But you acted without calculation. That is not weakness. That is strength. Elias met her gaze steadily. Where I come from, loyalty matters. If someone depends on you, you don't hesitate. The Queen turned away, her robes flowing like shadows. His words echoed in her mind. Long ago, her ex-husband had spoken of loyalty too, but only as a mask to hide betrayal. Elias's voice carried no deception. The Queen's dilemma. When Elias was dismissed, Sarathis remained alone in her chamber. She stood by the great window, staring out at the stars. Why did this human remind her so much of the past yet feel so different? Why did his courage stir something she thought had long died? Her empire was strong, but rebellion was rising. Her enemies watched for weakness. And now, one human guard had become a symbol she could not ignore. For the first time in many years, Queen Sarathis faced a question she could not answer with force or command. Was this human a danger or a gift? The uncertainty lingered, as dangerous as any blade. The corridors of the Zorith Palace were quieter than usual, yet the silence carried an underlying tension. Whispers of rebellion had grown louder over the past days. Nobles and generals had begun to conspire in hidden rooms, speaking of the human guard and his unexpected favor with Queen Sarathis. The Queen, however, moved through the halls with her usual poise. Her golden eyes scanned her advisors and generals, her mind calculating every detail. She could not ignore the human who had become central to her thoughts. Captain Elias Ward had proven his loyalty in action, but she still could not decide whether he was a blessing or a distraction. Rumors of rebellion at a secret gathering in the northern wing of the palace. Warlord Vaynor and a small group of alien nobles whispered urgently. The Queen favors a human, Vaynor hissed, his claws tapping impatiently on the table. A human. How can she trust a species so young, so untested? One of the nobles, a tall figure with violet-scaled skin, replied, It is more than that. She hesitates when she looks at him. That hesitation could cost us everything if the rebels strike again. Vaynor's eyes glinted with malice. Then we must act. The human guard is a tool we can exploit, or we can remove him. Either way, the Queen must not distract herself with weakness. The others nodded. Their plans were cautious, careful. No one wanted open defiance yet. They would wait for the right moment to strike, and they would use the shadow of the human to their advantage. Elias's duty. Meanwhile, Captain Elias Ward remained unaware of the growing storm around him. His daily routine aboard the human ship continued, overseeing security, coordinating with the ambassador, and remaining vigilant. But the previous assassination attempt had left him alert in new ways. He studied the palace guards, the servants, and even the nobles during ceremonies. Something in the air was off. While the aliens had not attempted another attack yet, he felt tension vibrating through the palace. When the ambassador spoke of sending a small exploration team to study trade routes, Elias volunteered to accompany them. He needed to understand the palace better, to anticipate any threats, and to ensure that humanity's first contact with the Zorith Empire did not collapse. A secret revelation late that night. Sarathis summoned Kalith to her private chamber. The room glowed with soft crystal lights, and the stars outside twinkled like distant fires. Kalith, she said, her voice low, I need information about someone I thought long gone. Kalith's eyes widened slightly. Majesty, do you mean? Sarathis nodded. My former husband. He was believed dead. I want proof, truth about his fate. If he still lives, I must know before the rebels strike again. Kalith hesitated. The records are incomplete, but there have been rumors, whispers of a shadow moving through rebel factions. If true, he may have survived, hiding among those who oppose you. Sarathis's heart tightened. Her ex-husband had betrayed her once, nearly destroying the empire. The thought of him returning filled her with both rage and a strange unease. And the human guard, she added, her voice soft but firm. He resembles him. Does that concern you, Kalith? The advisor bowed slightly. It is unusual, Majesty. But humans are not your former husband. The resemblance alone is not a threat. Sarathis turned to the window, her eyes tracing the constellations. Perhaps, but shadows of the past are never gone completely. I will need to be careful, more careful than I have ever been. Political storm the next day, the council reconvened. Tension was visible in every gesture, every glance. Warlord Vanar paced at the back, glaring at the humans. Other nobles whispered among themselves, plotting their moves. Sarathis took her seat on the throne. Her gaze swept across the chamber, finally settling on Elias. She could not remove her attention from him. Not out of fear, but out of curiosity. He had proven himself loyal, capable, and fearless. Yet he reminded her too much of the man who had betrayed her. The meeting began, and for the first time in weeks, Sarathis allowed herself to speak with measured candor. Our enemies move in shadows, she said. Rebellion is growing in our empire. Those who seek to overthrow me will not wait. We must remain vigilant. Vanar snorted. Majesty, perhaps we should not waste time on humans. They are weak. Their loyalty is untested. The Queen's gaze snapped toward him, sharp and dangerous. Do not speak of loyalty, Warlord. You would do well to remember whose favor keeps you in your position. The Warlord fell silent. Though his glare did not fade, the shadow revealed that evening. Intelligence reports reached the Queen's chamber. Calith handed her a file containing surveillance information collected over weeks. It showed the movements of rebel forces, their communications, and most shocking of all, a figure moving among them who matched the description of her ex-husband. Sarathis's breath caught. He was alive. Hidden, yes, but alive. This changes everything, she murmured, closing the file with a quiet snap. If he is leading the rebels, he may strike at the heart of the Empire itself. And the human guard, he will be at the center of this storm whether he knows it or not. Calith nodded. We will need to act carefully, Majesty. Both of them could alter the balance of power. Sarathis's mind raced. The image of Elias's calm face, his courage, and his loyalty seemed almost like a beacon. Could a human truly stand beside her and fight the shadow of her past? Could she trust him to act wisely when the ex-husband returned? Elias faces suspicion. Meanwhile, Elias noticed the subtle change in the palace. Whispers followed him. Some nobles avoided him, others watched his every move. Even some of the palace guards glanced at him suspiciously. He approached the ambassador one evening. Something is wrong, he said quietly. I can feel it. The tension. The way they look at me. They suspect me of something, but I don't know what. The ambassador frowned. Elias, you saved the Queen. That should earn respect. Not in this court, Elias replied. Some of them do not like humans. Others may see me as a threat. I need to stay vigilant. He did not realize that the greatest threat would not be from him, but from shadows of a past long buried, now rising again. A dangerous choice. Sarathis decided to take a bold step. She summoned Elias to her private chamber again. The room was quiet, the crystal light soft. Captain Ward, she said, you must understand what is happening. My ex-husband. He is alive. He leads a group of rebels who seek to destroy me. You may be caught in this struggle whether you wish it or not. Elias listened carefully. Then I will do what I must, Majesty. I will not allow harm to come to you or the ambassador. Sarathis studied him, searching for hesitation. There was none. Only calm, steady determination. You remind me of him, she said softly, almost to herself. And yet, you are not him. That is what makes this possible. You may prove loyalty where others have failed. Elias nodded. I understand. And I will not fail. Preparing for conflict, the next days were filled with preparation. Sarathis met with her generals to plan defenses. The ambassador worked with the Queen's advisors to ensure the human safety. Elias trained relentlessly, reviewing every possible threat scenario in the palace. And in the shadows, the ex-husband moved. His figure was seen in secret messages, his name whispered among rebel factions, his strategy hidden behind layers of deception. He had survived death before. Now he returned, stronger, smarter, and more dangerous than ever. The Queen could feel it. The storm of the past was approaching, and at its center stood the human who mirrored her lost love, the ex-husband who had betrayed her, and the fragile balance of the Empire itself. Sarathis knew the coming days would test not only her power but her judgment. Could she trust the human guard? Could she face the ghost of her past without faltering? The answer, she realized, would decide the fate of the Zorith Empire. The Zorith Empire was tense as the shadow of rebellion grew near. Word of her ex-husband's survival had spread quietly among loyalists and spies. Queen Sarathis moved through the palace corridors with a purpose she had not felt in years. Her golden eyes, always sharp and commanding, now carried both fire and calculation. Captain Elias Ward, standing beside the ambassador, had been briefed on the dangers. He had anticipated the political tension and studied the palace's layout carefully, yet nothing could fully prepare him for what was coming. From the horizon of the Empire's capital, a fleet of rebel ships emerged, sleek and dark, moving with precision that suggested careful planning. The ex-husband had returned not as a ghost of the past, but as a force that threatened to consume everything. The first strike. The first assault came at dawn. Explosions rocked the capital as rebel fighters moved swiftly toward the palace gates. Alarm bells rang through the halls, sending soldiers running to their stations. The queen stood in her command chamber overlooking the city. Elias remained at her side, his armor scratched from training and minor skirmishes, but unyielding. "They are strong, Majesty," he said quietly. "But we are ready." Sarathis nodded, her face unreadable. "Strength is not enough. Strategy, loyalty, and courage will decide this battle." The rebels moved like shadows, avoiding detection until their fighters breached the outer walls. The palace guards fought bravely, but the human tactics introduced by Elias gave the defenders an edge. He coordinated defensive positions, pointing out weak spots, and leading small units to hold critical points. A soldier's bravery in the chaos. Elias spotted a rebel squad heading straight toward the command chamber. Without hesitation, he charged, using his human agility and quick thinking to intercept them. He blocked the corridors, guiding the palace defenders and neutralizing threats with precision. The queen watched from above, her golden eyes following his every move. She saw the courage, the discipline, and the unwavering focus. This human, so small compared to the Zorith soldiers, moved with a heart larger than many of her generals. When a second wave tried to flank her chamber, Elias positioned himself at the doorway, standing as a shield between the queen and danger. One of the rebel fighters lunged at him with a glowing blade. Elias dodged, using the force of the attacker's momentum to throw him against the wall. Another tried to strike from above, but Elias anticipated, blocking and redirecting the assault. Every move he made was precise. Every decision carried responsibility, not for glory, but for survival. Sarathis felt a strange respect growing inside her. Humans had only recently entered the galaxy, yet here was one whose courage and loyalty surpassed the experienced warriors of her empire. The confrontation. The battle reached its peak when the ex-husband himself arrived in the throne hall. His presence was commanding, terrifying. He moved with the arrogance and charm that had once captivated Sarathis, but now it was twisted by years of betrayal and ambition. "You," Sarathis spat, her voice echoing across the chamber. "I thought I had destroyed you." The ex-husband smiled coldly. "You failed once, my queen, I survived, and now I return to claim what I was denied." Elias stood between them, his chest rising and falling steadily. He did not flinch at the ex-husband's towering presence. Instead, he squared his shoulders and met the danger directly. Sarathis's advisors moved to strike, but she raised a hand. She wanted to see if this human, this captain, could face the ultimate test. "You will not harm her," Elias said firmly, his voice carrying the weight of conviction. "If you wish to fight, it must be with me first." The ex-husband's eyes narrowed. He underestimated humans before, but Elias's stance, calm and unwavering, gave him pause. The battle. Within the chamber, the fight was fierce. The ex-husband's experience and alien strength were immense, yet Elias's speed, courage, and tactical mind allowed him to evade deadly strikes and counter when opportunities arose. Each move was precise, calculated, and driven by determination rather than anger. Sarathis observed silently. She had expected fear, weakness, or hesitation. Instead, she saw honor. The human was fighting not for conquest or personal gain, but to protect her and the Empire. The ex-husband attempted a powerful strike, aiming to disable Elias quickly. But the captain anticipated it, sidestepped, and used the momentum to unbalance the alien warrior. In a swift maneuver, Elias disarmed the ex-husband and pressed him against the wall, holding him firmly but without cruelty. "You cannot win through fear," Elias said. "Strength alone does not decide battles. Loyalty, courage, and honor do. For a moment, the ex-husband seemed stunned, as though he had never encountered someone who fought not for power, but for justice. Turning the tide outside the throne hall, the palace defenders, inspired by Elias's courage, pushed back the rebel forces. Soldiers who had wavered now fought with renewed vigor, following the example of this human who faced impossible odds without fear. Sarathis moved forward, joining the battle strategically. She coordinated forces, reinforced weak points, and struck decisively where needed. With Elias at her side, they created a partnership of strategy and courage that turned the tide. The rebel forces, despite their planning and cunning, could not withstand the combined strength of the loyal Zorith army and the human-led defenses. One by one, the intruders were defeated, captured, or forced to retreat. The ex-husband's defeat finally, the ex-husband, exhausted and defeated, faced Sarathis directly. He had fought with strength, cunning, and rage, but it was not enough. "You, human," he snarled, his eyes flicking toward Elias. "How?" Sarathis stepped forward, her golden eyes burning with authority. "Because courage, loyalty, and honor cannot be faked. You lost those qualities long ago." Elias stood silently beside her, his presence a living testament to humanity's determination. The ex-husband's defeat was complete not just by power but by principle. The rebel leader was taken into custody. The remaining rebel forces were either captured or driven away. The Zorith Empire had survived the storm, and the humans had proven themselves in ways no one had anticipated. Recognition of humanity, in the aftermath, Sarathis addressed the human delegation. The throne hall, once tense with whispers and fear, now hummed with a sense of awe. The ambassador and the remaining human guard stood proudly, knowing their people had left a mark on the empire. "Humans," Sarathis said, her voice carrying both authority and acknowledgement. "You have faced a test that would have shaken many empires. Yet you stood firm, loyal, and brave. Today you have proven that courage and honor are not measured by size or experience, but by the heart." Elias bowed modestly as the queen spoke. "We only acted as we must, your majesty." Sarathis nodded. "And yet that is why you are worthy. Remember this lesson. Strength without loyalty is nothing, and loyalty without courage is incomplete. Humanity has shown both today." Whispers spread throughout the empire. For the first time, humans were not merely newcomers. They were respected. They were seen as a rising force, a species capable of shaping the galaxy. A moment of reflection later, in the quiet of her private chamber, Sarathis looked at Elias. "You remind me," she said softly, "of someone I once loved. But you are not him. You are better." Elias gave a faint smile, understanding the weight of her words without misunderstanding them. "I am only a human, Majesty, but we do what is right when it is needed." Sarathis nodded, a rare softness in her gaze. "You have changed the way I see your people. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long." The captain simply nodded, knowing that the true recognition came from actions, not words. A new beginning with the rebellion crushed and her ex-husband defeated, the queen took time to reorganize her empire. She strengthened her loyal forces, re-established trust among the nobles, and ensured that the humans were protected and respected within the palace. Elias continued his duty, ever watchful, but he no longer felt invisible. He had proven humanity's worth, not by conquest, but through courage, honor, and loyalty. The galaxy, too, began to notice. Whispers of humanity's bravery spread across star systems. Young species that had doubted Earth began to reconsider. Allies looked to humans with curiosity and respect. And in the heart of the Zorith Empire, Queen Sarathis realized a truth that had been hidden in plain sight. Humans, though young and untested, possessed qualities that could change the course of the galaxy. For the first time, she felt hope, not just for her empire, but for the humans who had reminded her that courage and honor could still shine in the darkest times. The human captain, Elias Ward, had stood beside her through danger, embodying the very best of his species. And in doing so, he had changed history.